Okay, hello, my name is Enrique Villena, and my presentation has two parts. The first, which is not moving, there it is, the filmmaking process. So I wanted to make a short film, and not necessarily a good short film, but I just wanted to make something and finish it. And I'm going to take you through the filmmaking process and the wonders that it has, and part of it, I guess. Pre-production is probably one of my favorites and least favorites. Pre-production involves writing a script, which I have on my website. It's about 12 pages and it's pretty good. I didn't follow all the formats of scripting because I think some of them are dumb. Like there's like cut tos and they don't really make any sense because, you know, why would I write cut to? It's kind of obvious that if I put a different location, I'm cutting to something different. So I didn't include those and some other formatting that are weird. And it also involves location scouting, finding actors, which are my friends, and basically garnering costumes because I need those too, and figuring out how things work. And usually a lot of those things fail, and then I have to figure out something out on the way. So then production, in which you actually produce this short film. You go out and you film it, you get your friends, you schedule everyone's times, and then bang, you're filming a movie. It's awesome, it's cool times. It's actually really frustrating because it's a combination because it's a love-hate relationship. A lot of the filmmaking process is that because you love the feeling of finishing it and doing it, but while you're doing it you hate it because how stressful it is, because things don't work. You have to make sure all the settings on the camera are like correct and function, because if not they won't match the other settings, and if not it won't upload, then you lose all your footage and then you just wasted a day. So then finally, this is the equipment I had to bring. So there's lots of equipment you need to make a movie. So there's a tripod, which is really expensive. It's like $200, $300. You need a camera. We need lighting equipment specifically to shoot inside, because if you don't use lighting equipment, it looks really bad. It looks really shadowy and it looks really unprofessional, and if you use lighting equipment, it looks professional. But the thing is, when you make it look professional, it looks like it should, so no one notices. So lighting is like one of the most you don't gain anything out of it. People just take it, just like, oh yeah, that worked out. But it actually takes hours to set up. It took me like 30 minutes to set up that, which was in my garage. I needed to basically have an all black room with one spotlight, and that took me hours because I had to set up like towels on the side of my garage door, and then I had to get a spotlight, and then I had to shoot it at Ivan, and he's angry because he can't see anything and there's stuff in the way, and I have to move a car out, and I have to move my bike out, and then I have to move everything to the corner. But it eventually worked out, and it took me like 30 minutes. So that's just like a 10-second shot. So everything just takes up a lot setting up, and then I'm the everything in the movie. So I'm the lighting director, I'm an actor, I'm the writer, and I'm the director. So I have so many hats that I just got to make sure everything's working out. Then there's post-production, which is it's a cooler part because it's like a puzzle piece. Because I have everything's in puzzle pieces, and I have to put it together so it makes sense. In editing, which is right there. Editing is fun because, especially when you're filming something that doesn't involve dialogue, because then you get to mess around with it. You get to be like, oh, this would be cool if I put this music under it, and I create a montage, or I don't know, this is not working, and I also get to fix a lot of my mistakes. And when you're making a movie, you make lots and lots of mistakes, even professional movies nowadays. And you use editing to cover them up and make it look like you're actually talented. So, I'm going to show you a clip from my movie. This is a clip I showed from my informal, but it's probably the most fun I had editing something in the movie, because I had no idea how it was going to turn out. Alright, so be prepared. It's really silly, and that's not loud. How do I raise the volume on this? Boop, boop. Here? Wait, this way.
Where's that guy that made fun of me?
If you want to fight him, you'll have to go through me first.
Well, all right then. My fan here will film the fight and post it on the internet.
Hey guys.
All right then.
The gloves are off.
Alright, well, I don't want to get blood on my cape of justice.
Oh, well, in that case, the coat is off, too.
Can't beat Mr. Destiny.
That's his name.
How would you like to lose the other eye? Burn! Oh God, I'm blind! I win! I win! Joke's on you. I've got the other eye! Oh, crap. Shit just got real. Yeah, you better run. Oh God, did you get the footage?
No, man, I've just been tweeting.
Ah, shit.
So that's a clip from my movie. I bet you didn't know anything that was going on in that clip. So I'll explain what was happening in my movie. Let me see, slideshow, view, there it is. Basically my movie, a kid makes fun of a vigilante and he challenges him to a fight. So then the kid goes on Craigslist and asks for help. And then this guy, Ivan, who's my friend, and he's the guy wearing the goggles and the mustache, volunteers to help him fight against him. Because my character is sort of a loner, he just kind of stays in his house. So he goes out and fights him in the park, and basically he's representing him. And then stuff happens in the movie that you'll find out if you come see the short film in the Short Film Festival. So just to give you an idea of things I did in that clip, there's a couple mistakes there that you may have noticed that I noticed right now that I forgot about. One clip you can see a cable in the corner. Another clip, and when I was editing it, there was that portion in which he was talking, and then it goes to Arthur. He's on his cell phone. Those are actually two different audio clips because he messed up both times, but he messed up once at the beginning and once at the end, and once at the beginning in one take and once at the end in the other take. So then I cut it up and I put it in so you don't notice. So I called that like a shadow cut because no one would ever notice that at all. But it took me out 10 minutes just fiddling around with the audio to make it look like I didn't look fake or didn't match his mouth, because I'm moving the camera and you don't see his mouth, so you won't be able to tell. So my paper was on something called BMovies. BMovies have always been special to me as a filmmaker because I always find them so inspiring in their ineptitude and sometimes success. And some questions I usually get is, what is a B-movie? So let me explain that to you. The history is around the 1950s. People didn't have, they had too much free time, I guess, and they like to go out. Like, people don't like to do that nowadays. And they had something called the double feature, in which they would have two movies. The first movie was the one with the big name actors and the one everyone cared about, and that was called an A movie. And the second movie was called a B movie. It was cheaper and no one really cared about it, but everyone had so much free time that they would just stay there and watch it. And then after double feature bit the dust, the B movies just came to mean like a cheap movie in general. And as time passed by, the differences between them grew and grew. And before Star Wars and Jaws, I could pretty much sum it up as this. An A movie is a large budget movie with high profile actors, and that's either a drama or a comedy. Because before Jaws and Star Wars, sci-fi movies and horror movies weren't that considered popular. And B movies tend to have a low budget, unknown actors, and horror, sci-fi, or mixture, like horror, or western, or sci-fi noir, and you just mix them around and you get a B movie because they're weird and different and not many people like them. So, for example, around the same time period, we get Casablanca. Everyone likes Casablanca, it's a classic. And we get Attack of the Crab Monsters from Roger Corman, which is not considered a classic at all. But it's still very enjoyable and I highly recommend it. So my question from my paper that I was trying to figure out, I know they're important to me, but I wanted to find out if they were important to cinema and Hollywood in general. And I came to the conclusion that this guy is pretty much the biggest reason why it's important, why B movies are important in Hollywood. His name is Roger Corman. He's produced 461 movies, which is a lot. He's called the king of B movies. Also, he has other names like the Godfather of independent filmmaking. He also has an honorary Oscar. And I forgot to mention this, the last movie he made was called Sharktopus, and it was made for the Sci-Fi Channel. It's a shark and an octopus combined into one creature, and it's really cool. And and the question you would ask is, why does this guy who made such filth like Sharktopus have a honorary Oscar? Well, because he launched the careers of some of the most respected artists of our time. People like Jack Nicholson worked with him for 10 years. Martin Scorsese, Taxi Driver, Hugo, hundreds, every movie Martin Scorsese has made is pretty much good. There's not really, there may be like one bad one, but it's considered alright, but it's not like, he's been consistently good throughout his entire career. Francis Ford Coppola, although now he makes bad movies, back in the day, The Godfather, The Conversation, this guy is, and Jonathan Demme, Silence of the Lambs, you know, all of these people work with him. Peter Fonda, Dennis Hopper, Ron Howard, James Cameron, all of these people who are just so important to Hollywood nowadays. James Cameron is, two of James Cameron's movies are the top grossing movies of all time, Avatar and Titanic. He also did Joe Dante, who made Gremlins, worked with him too. It's just like the number of people who went on to be extremely successful is ridiculous. And that's because he had sort of what was it called? He had an ethic that he wanted to make movies for young people and about young people. And he would do that by hiring young people. So people who wouldn't get a chance at their 20s to direct and make a movie got the opportunity to do that because he was working outside the system because he was making B movies, which I think I may have not mentioned. Actually, this is where I mentioned it. He was one of the only people to work outside the Hollywood system and be successful. He was one of the first independent filmmakers. Back in the day, there was nobody would work independently from Hollywood because there's no way you could get the funding, and it was just much easier to work in Hollywood. You know, it's easier to do independent filmmaking is on the rise today because equipment's easier to buy. But back in the day, it was expensive, and it required lots of money that you need a studio to back you. And Roger Corman was crazy enough to work outside of that system and basically starting independent filmmaking in North America. He also, because he was working independently, he took risks. He made movies about young people. He made one movie called The Trip, which is about acid, written by Jack Nicholson, one of the first movies. He also, one of the first movies about drugs and hippies. He also made a biker movie. I don't remember the name of it, but it's what led up to make Easy Rider, which became one of the most important independent films and also one of the most successful ever. And just because he did this, he was able to make differences in Hollywood by making movies about young people and such, that affected Hollywood later on. They noticed like, oh, this guy's making money, let's make movies about people today, and then we can make money too. So because he was making these movies, he popularized the genres of sci-fi and horror, which led to one of the biggest cinematic moments in Hollywood. I mean, one of the biggest moments in Hollywood is when Jaws and Star Wars came out. If you guys don't know the importance of Jaws and Star Wars, this is it. these are the first blockbusters. These changed Hollywood forever. Hollywood, the reason we get movies that are $300 million about robots and assassins and ninjas is because of these two movies. And it's impossible to see that not to see Roger Corman's influences on these movies. You know, Jaws is about a killer shark, and Star Wars is, you know, the first Star Wars specifically, it's kind of cheesy. You know, there's characters and they're kind of, you know, the hero and the rogue, and the bad guy's called Darth Vader, and he has an evil light sword. You know, if you just break it down, and you can notice that there's a lot of B-movie elements within these movies that I think both George Lucas and Steven Spielberg saw from Roger Corman, and then they produced to make a big budget movie that later on became two of the most successful movies of all time. Anyway, I also want to look, because time has changed the definition of a B-movie, because of those two movies that they came out and they changed everything, then B-movies couldn't just be a sci-fi or a horror movie, because, you know, those are now popular and they're now really expensive and they're considered A-movies. So I've been trying to find a modern B-movie definition, and I asked a critic whose name is Brian Salisbury, and his opinion was that any movie that relies upon fantastical genre elements and is unconcerned with pristine quality, whether that lack of concern be intentional or a consequence of budget, could potentially qualify as a B-movie. And I think that's a perfect way to do it nowadays, because it's really difficult. It needs to be broad enough to encompass some of the weirder ones, but it has to be specific enough so you can, you know, you don't encompass every movie. And he basically boiled it down perfectly, and that's why I'm just reading it to you. So chapter 3, I wanted to talk about how it affects culturally, like what effects does it have. And the most popular B-movie today is the Rocky Horror Picture Show. People love the Rocky Horror Picture Show. There's nearly a running performance in every major city, a weekly one, where people have like crazy traditions and they bounce around balls and sing around with the songs, and it's just a lot of fun for those people. I don't personally find it enjoyable, but a lot of people really, really love this experience of going out and seeing this movie weekly, just hundreds of times. And there's multiple documentaries, and I think there's one in Boston if you're ever interested, which I doubt, but if you do check it out, it's definitely a cool experience. There's other movies that include the Midnight Movie Experience, along with Rocky Horror Picture Show. Is The Evil Dead, starring Bruce Campbell, directed by Sam Raimi, who went out to do Spider-Man. It's really cool, it's really fun, it's a horror comedy. The second one's a horror comedy, the first one is just a cheesy horror movie. I like the second one more. I also want to look at how it affected modern filmmakers. So Quentin Tarantino directed Reservoir Dogs, Kill Bill, it's a portion of Sin City, and it's obvious you can see his B-movie influences in those movies. He references them, he uses music from them. He made his own in Grindhouse. It's not very good, but it's definitely, he does have a love for these movies, and he includes them in each of his films. He's like a B-movie DJ. He gets elements that he likes, and then he just crafts them and makes them like a great movie out of them, like Pulp Fiction or Jackie Brown. Robert Rodriguez, he's one of the most important independent filmmakers, and his movies like El Mariachi, and he did Sin City with Quentin Tarantino, and he did Grindhouse with Quentin Tarantino also, and he definitely has his B-movie influences, his action movie influences, and the kind of like the do-it-yourself ethic of Roger Corman, because he does everything on his movies. He's the cinematographer, he does the music, I don't think he does the lighting, but he does the writing, directing, he's the jack of all trades of filmmakers. Mark Neveldine and Brian Taylor, they recently did like Crank and Crank 2. Both of them are ridiculous movies, but it's really, you can see the elements of B-movies within them because they're just so ridiculous and fun and just, you know, kind of guerrilla filmmaking. That was another part of B-movies, that they would just go out and just do crazy things. These guys are like the daredevils of filmmaking. Like, it just surprises me. If you think of, they made a movie recently, what was it called? Ghost Rider. It's horrible because it's written really badly, but they directed it and it's kind of cool visually. And I saw the making of clip, like as an advertisement before I was gonna watch a YouTube video. And you see the guy, like Mark Neveldine, I think it is, he's like tied up on ropes against, and it's tied to a motorcycle, and he's in the middle. He's wearing like rollerblades and holding like this $500,000 camera, and they just go, and he's going at 60 miles an hour filming these two guys, and he doesn't give a crap at all. He's just like, I just want to get the shot done. And it's this type of ethic that I really appreciate. So I was looking to see what is today's modern B movie, because those guys who were influenced, their movies are not B movies. They incorporate elements and spin them in a new way. But what's today's B movie? And I like this movie a lot. It's called Mirage Man. It was made in Chile, and it stars this, I forgot his name, but he's like this up-and-coming martial artist. He's like a Jackie Chan, Bruce Lee-esque guy, and he's really, really talented. And this movie is about vigilante in Chile, and about his trials of trying to be one. And he just, it's just such a fun movie, and you get to see like how you can see like him, how talented he is, and you're just like, this guy's gonna go on to do great things. All right, so clip, which I'm not gonna show because it's gonna take too long. So questions, Q&A. Yes. Oh, sorry. I pointed at him. You go. Sorry.
You call yourself a filmmaker, so have you been involved in other films? And at what part of the filmmaking process did you?
I have helped other people, like students like me. I've never been part of a professional shoot. I was part of a filmmaking program during the summer where everyone was making their own films. And other than just making my movie, I have another short film I made that's, I think I've been improving. It's very lame, kind of, but I was helping other people do other things. Like I wanted to learn how to do lighting better, so I was like, oh, I want to work on lighting with you. So then I would spend like 30 minutes trying to work how to move to use the lights and not like cause a fire.
I was just going to say, like, to create your own B movie, how much money do you need for equipment?
Roger Corman had part of his, he would never spend, Roger Corman said he would never spend over $50,000 on a movie, which is really cheap. If you look at it, the modern independent film is $500,000. Like that's cheap as it goes. So a modern B movie would be between the $25,000 to the $50,000 range, around there. And it could be getting lower and lower since filmmaking gets cheaper and cheaper nowadays. So it keeps changing.
Is a B movie and an independent movie the same?
A B movie can be an independent movie, but an independent movie, well, basically, if it's an independent movie and it's really cheap, and it's a sci-fi or horror movie, everyone's going to consider it a B movie. Like, although there's some, it's just really difficult sometimes because Paranormal Activity could be an example of that, because Paranormal Activity was made for $12,000. And I don't know if it's a B movie or not, because it's cheap when you're watching it. Because it's like the handheld camera thing that's going on, and you don't see any monsters the entire time because they can't afford having real monsters in the movie. So I think that some people will consider that a movie that's an independent movie. But you could think of let me think of an independent movie that came out recently. The Kids Are Alright or something. That was made for like $5 million, but that's considered independent. That's not a B movie.
I'm still
Sorry. If it's cheap and it's either like a sci-fi, horror, or like a mixture, it probably is a B movie.
Okay, and then what would make it independent then and no longer B?
It can be independent and B, but if it's independent, it's probably like a drama or about like a serious topic. Then that would be considered an independent movie. If it's like, about, I'm trying to think of a movie, like do you guys know about A Separation? It's the one that won Best Foreign Film at all. That's an independent movie, and it's about like two people growing apart. And that is an independent movie, but it's not a B movie because it's about real people, and none of these fantastical genre elements that I mentioned are not a part of it.
B movies ever make it to major awards? Or
There's a couple of horror awards, but no one really pays attention to them. The biggest reward B-movies have received was when Roger Corman, I think it was 2 years ago, won the honorary Oscar. And it was great because when he stood up, everybody who he trained and went to something, the people call it the Roger Corman School of Filmmaking, they all stood up and started clapping, and then Quentin Tarantino gave like a really powerful speech when he was a kid, and when he saw those movies, that's one of the things that made him excited to be a filmmaker later in his life. And he's like, you can see like tears going down his eyes, and then Roger Corman coming up and getting his award, something you would never expect a guy like him who made movies like that would receive. Roger Corman, I forgot to mention, but this is not part of my thing at all. He's just an interesting guy in general because he also, while he was making these like schlocky B movies, he also wanted to bring like foreign films into the United States. So he would bring like the Fellini, like a bunch of these really artsy French types. He would bring like their movies to North America, and then his company would like distribute them across North America. And because of that, his company became one of the most. His company got received out of any company at the moment has received the most nominations for best foreign film from Academy Awards, because he had this just interest of producing and distributing these foreign films that are really artsy and like kind of like a separation. Like he would just bring them over and like show them to people. Yes?
What is it about the B movie that is so enjoyable to you?
There's many aspects to it. It's watching someone try really hard with very little. And even though there may be failures, there's always tiny successes that are really enjoyable. And also because they're making on such a low budget, and also because they're not part of the Hollywood system, they go in directions you don't think that normal movies would go. Because there's usually the 3-act structure, and you can kind of tell where a big blockbuster today would go. But when you're watching like a really like daredevilish B movie, you're just like, yeah, I have no idea where this is going. This is going somewhere because it's going in weird directions, and weird, strange things are happening that you're not used to seeing in normal movies, and that's really exciting to me for me to watch. Or you just see things happen, like other things, like for example, in Brain Dead, the guy gets like a lawn, that's like a wind turbine, and he runs and like mows down like hundreds of zombies. And it's just like awesome, and you would never expect that to happen in a modern like blockbuster or B movie. Oh, someone's in. Anyway, modern blockbuster, not B movie. I just realized I said that.
So it doesn't take a lot of money, perhaps, to make it, according to Hollywood standards. But are some of them very financially successful once they're released?
I would say. Some of them, let me think. Well, I think a lot of them, they gain their money back, but it's usually a slow kind of like cult that forms around the really good ones, that then people start having weekly screenings and they go to them and they like dress up as the characters, like Evil Dead, and then that's where this kind of like fan, like they like support the movies that they enjoy, and then that director gets us like a fan base essentially, so that whenever they make a movie, then that fan base is gonna go and watch it, so they know they're gonna make a certain amount of money on each movie. So it's not, I don't think there's, Paranormal Activity may be one that was extremely financially successful. $12,000 made like $205 million, and of course, studios would like to make all movies like that, but they try to think there's like a formula, and they try to it's like, all right, so people like handheld movies, so we're gonna make a handheld movie in space, and it's called Apollo something 18, and it came out and it was horrible and didn't make any money. So they try to get this, find, whenever a B movie is successful, like the studio's like, oh, let's try to do something like that, and they always fail because there's something, since there's that innovation that people don't know what's gonna happen that I mentioned earlier. People won't get caught by surprise twice. They won't, and they're just like, oh, they're just doing that thing again. I'm not interested in that anymore. So it's really difficult to monetize, just like a B movie market. It's a lot about the people and what they enjoy. Yes.
So I guess I'm kind of wondering how did people see before, in the 70s and 80s, before internet, before VHS and stuff like that? but after the double feature,
Yeah.
where would people see this?
There was like dollar theaters, and that, you know, when they weren't showing, you know, because back in the day there wasn't weekly. As nowadays you get, there's a new movie every week. And back then, I wasn't born, but you guys, some of you were there. So, movies would stay in the theater for a while. Like E.T. was there for months, and that's how it gained like a lot of money. And so whenever a B movie was released, it would just stay in theaters for a long time, and then people would be like, "Yo, this is awesome! Let me go tell my friend about it." And then all their friends would get together and they'll start watching it. Like, "No, this is great, man!" And then eventually, you know, VHS popped up, and then people would pass around VHS tapes, and then they would have like parties and bring people over to show them the movie. And eventually, this kind of then the internet was created. And then these cults of people find a way to like get together, and then now there's screenings of the movies, and now it's easier to like, you know, bring people together to support like a B movie than it was before. Because before, it was, when it was successful, it was just like random. It was just like, it would take a lot of time, and nowadays it's quicker because, you know, the internet and people passing YouTube videos around. And that's why really bad movies, like there's a movie called The Room and Birdemic, movies like that now have fan bases, and they get shown across the nation and gain lots of money. Yes?
What would you say was the
Heyday of the B movie? It would probably be right before Star Wars and Jaws came out. The big problem when those two came out, Roger Corman realized that, hey, they're doing what I'm doing, but with way more money. So I can't compete with that. And that's when he started being more part of the video market, rather than the you know, going straight to the theaters like it was before. So right before that was it was called the exploitation part of movie making. That was around the 70s. And basically right when the 70s started, there was this ban on like sex and violence that was on movies that got lifted. So Roger Corman was like, hey, so I couldn't do sex and violence before, and most like studio films won't allow this type of sex and violence, but I can provide it. And he made these movies that were a lot about like just being extremely violent, and, you know, often had like lots of like sexy women and and blood going on. That's where Pam Grier, she became like one of the first female action stars because of this, when it came around with Blaxploitation, which came out at the same time as Exploitation. And she then, Quentin Tarantino saw her in like all these Roger Corman movies, and then brought her to do Jackie Brown, and she got an Academy nomination for that. Academy Award nomination for that. So the heyday, in short, was before Jaws and Star Wars.
Thank you.
Oh, no problem. Thanks.